What's good, everybody? Today is September 8th. We're going to run through a whole no news Monday of price action. We're going to look at why we could expect such inefficient action today, and we're going to look at the possible setup that you could have taken if you were really looking to trade today. So without further ado, just hop straight in. So on the daily, yesterday we took out, or not yesterday, on Friday we took out all-time highs, and then we ended up making an SMT at all-time highs, right? So we're now sitting with something like this, where we have an SMT placed in on that level. We both took this internal low, or internal high right here, but we haven't taken this level yet on NQ. So the SMT would be more so something like this, right? So it's pretty much showing us that we have manipulation at those highs. And then zooming over to the 4-hour time frame, we now make that leg of a displacement lower. That could potentially either be a rebalance looking at the 4-hour into this inefficiency area, or on the 1 hour, this could now be displacement past this low to go be the start of the sell model right here, which, looking at how the day kind of went out and how the overnight session happened, it was pretty evident that that's not really going to be what we're expecting, because I'd want to see a more immediate bearish pressure reaction once we touch into this imbalance, which instead we ended up placing our own imbalance right here and just really not being bearish at all, right? All right, so zooming out, we now have to look at what we saw going into open, right? So we're now kind of in an area where we're not too sure about the bias, right? We have an SMT on this low that's kind of giving me hard time frame confirmation that we can definitely maybe look for some kind of short or long bias, because now we have SMT within it for value gap right here. This is pretty good to now go ahead and take some kind of long. So the only thing that we needed to then see would have been invalidation of this order flow right here, which in my opinion, with this for value gap getting placed in, that was pretty nice to see. I would then need to go ahead and see some kind of manipulation within this for value gap to go ahead and take an internal model long, and then leave it for runners to the upside. So what do we end up seeing? Because so far this isn't looking too bad to go ahead and take a trade, right? Fair value gap right here. We have sell side liquidity resting right here. And now we have our bigger time frame buy side draw sitting right here. So now going into market open, right, I'm just looking to see something like this where we manipulate lower and then give us an internal model trade to these highs right here, and then leave runners for this draw, right? Now on open, we ended up not seeing that at all, right? We ended up seeing some kind of short setup play out, and then we just saw discorrelation. So if we go ahead and look on open right about 9:30 here, we ended up seeing a bit of manipulation at these highs, right? We ended up taking out this, I believe this was Asia high, right, which we had then already placed an SMT in here. So it was London high over here on ES, but on NQ is Asia high, right? So we took that out, and then we start to kind of just sit here and chop, right, where ES immediately displaces lower in the range. And although I'm looking for the taking of an internal low within that value gap to then take it long, I'm still waiting to go ahead and see some kind of manipulation at the highs, then go ahead and maybe push me lower. I want to see that internal low get taken before I look for any kind of trade to the upside, right? We don't end up seeing anything, so I really don't touch price, right? We take this low, but I want to see more than just that small internal low. I want to see the entire low of this accumulation, so that now this can become accumulation, and I want to see manipulation and then distribution to the upside, right? That's what I'm looking for, and we don't end up seeing that until way later in the day, right in our power hour, right? So the morning had no setup for me, right? If you took this short, I mean, I don't want to flame you, but this was kind of, it looked all right, I'm not gonna lie. If you got entered on this 930 candle right here, taking something like this looked really good to go ahead and take this low and this low, like really good, but then prices came in, just kind of stopped it out before just kind of playing around in the range. So there was really nothing there for me. So like I said, I wanted to see that internal low get taken, right, which would now be this sell side level. And by the way, that's internal on the higher time frame, right? So I want to see that get taken, and I want to see some kind of manipulation in that area, which can just be that liquidity sweep, or it can be an SMT, right? So zooming out, we end up seeing the best, right? We see two SMTs. We see number one external SMT, right? We're just trading this ES model, right? We have external SMT sitting right here, and now we also have internal SMT sitting right here, where NQ over here makes a lower low, where ES makes a higher high. So now we have internal SMT and external SMT. So now we're just going to zoom in and look at which one would give us the best trade, right? In my opinion, the structure validates trading ES, because not only is, actually there's two ways to look at this, right? You can look at just trading the internal model, which is probably what I do, be just considering the time that we're at in price. I'm just expecting a bit of a smaller move to the upside, not expecting to see this external draw get taken. But if this was earlier in the morning, I would definitely be looking to trade NQ, because if we look, we are much more bullish on the higher time frame, right? Like zoom out to the hourly, we are very bullish up until that high right there, which then goes ahead and gives us confirmation that now we're looking to go ahead and see that high get taken as our bigger time frame draw on liquidity, right? But since we're at power hour, I'm not expecting a huge move to go take that draw on liquidity. I'm just expecting maybe a little bit of a pump, right? So I'm looking in, and I'm looking to take this trade to an area that's probably going to be one of these internal highs, right? So the first internal high could have been this. This is a clean setup. If you took this, that was really nice and efficient. And then if you wanted to go ahead and trade until maybe these highs, I think this would be final take profit for me, because that ends up being the point at which we see the generated liquidity end and we start to get in some imbalance price action territory right here with an order block sitting right here, all that kind of good stuff, right? And that's where price ends up slowing down. Now, I like to execute this on either a 5-minute time frame or a 1-minute time frame. So I'm looking at this and I want to see after you see that manipulation boom, I'm looking for displacement high, right? So I don't end up seeing displacement until we end up getting me. This would be my 1-minute change of the state all the way up here, right? Like that's not very good until we end up seeing this SMT get placed in right at this level right here. So that becomes right here SMT. So 3 SMTs validating this bearish or bullish bias. And then if we want to go ahead and take a trade after we see change of the state happen right here, that would have been a pretty nice long setup in my opinion. So change of the state, you would have taken a position, or I would have at least, right here on the change of state level and then stop at that SMT low, right? And I always put at the SMT low, even if we have structure like this is just statistically it gets stopped out more than putting it at the SMT low, because that's the protected level. Then you can look to trade up to this high or even this high, right? And if you want to mark out the manipulation leg to find out the real true drawn liquidity, mark that out either here or here. That takes you right to this high right here, where if you look, -2 gets hit on that push higher that ends up getting taken this. So that would have been maximum take profit for me. So I mean, this is probably the best setup of the day. This was later in the day. 3 SMTs were within a bigger time for Friday gap. We have generated liquidity at the highs, manipulation, standard deviation aligning. That's probably the best setup of the day. But overall, there was really nothing to really trade today. So I stood out today. I didn't take any trades, but if you did, good job. If you caught that long, I thought that was probably the best setup of the day. Overall, interesting day to kind of sit back, work on discipline, not trade anything, and just be very cautious of everything we expose ourselves to on the market. So overall, I think it was a great day. If you watched price action, hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys learned something from the video, the way I analyze the higher time frames, the way that I decide on the direction of the market, the way I choose order flow, all that kind of stuff, right? How I see the market and market making models, all that kind of good stuff, right? So thank you all for watching. I hope you guys learned something. And without further ado, I'm gonna let you boys go. So peace out.